What's going on, everyone? Welcome back to the PNN Podcast, Season 2, Episode number 4. As always, Edward and Joey bringing you this one. Joey, another week, another episode of the PNN Podcast. Lots to cover this week's episode. A lot of action in the NBA, of course, the NFL Combine, and just some off-season stuff for the NFL too. A lot to get into today.
Yeah, for once, we're bringing NFL back into the mix. I know we've kind of shined away from it, rightfully so. I mean, if you're talking NFL during this part of the year, I don't know what you're looking at. Um, but yeah, so we'll got some NFL we're getting into. Um, Speaking for us though, I think we're in midterms. Did you take your midterms yet, Edward?
Yeah,
Or
I'm right in the.
you just skipped them?
No, I mean. I wanted to, but no, I'm right in the thick of it right now. I got one more tomorrow, so we're
Okay.
uh, we're getting through it. But then we got spring break, so I headed back home for a little bit, and then back down here to the valley to finish junior year off. So
Yes,
can't
sir. Yes,
complain too much
sir.
about it.
Yeah, but yeah, like you said, we'll get into some NBA action,
Yeah,
NFL, TGL. Playoffs are already set for the TGL. We'll get into that. That exciting finish coming up throughout the regular season there. And yeah, no baseball this week. We thought we'd let you guys get a break from that. Just kick back, relax, watch some spring training. But anyways, Edward Neiman, why don't you take it away on the hoops bus? You know, we got some big news going over in the NBA world.
yeah. So as if things couldn't get terrible enough for them boys down in Dallas. Kyrie Irving today, it was announced that he tore his ACL out for the rest of the season. Of course, we all know what happened with the Luka Doncic trade. Anthony Davis played about a half for the Mavericks before getting injured. He's still out with a thigh injury. Now reports are coming out from Shams that they're potentially thinking to sit him out for the rest of the regular season now that Kyrie's done. And also just like topping on the cake too, Mavs GM Nico Harrison also announced this morning that ticket prices for Mavericks games are going to increase for next year and the following season. So Dallas is not doing so hot. Their fans were already kind of mad to begin with. There's still two games over 500, 32 and 30. So they're just in that playing picture still. But obviously, they've lost their last two, 5-5 in the last 10. Things aren't looking so hot for them. And really, Joy, can't really afford it. Mavs coming off a year where they made the NBA Finals, were looking good. Delta Way, their superstar now. It almost looks like they kind of have to reset from square one.
Yeah, I mean, like you said, it sucks to be a Mavs fan after like literally what's been happening this whole season. And it just continues on from the Luka trade now here. Heartbreaking to see Kyrie go out that way. I mean, you saw him right after he did it. He said, he's gonna shoot his free throws, and then like during the free throws, he said like, "Thank you, God," and it was kind of like emotional. It sucks to see Kyrie in that state, man. You wish the best for those type of players, and you don't really ever wish injury on them at all. But
Yeah, I
that's
think
just the Dallas way, I guess, you know?
on top of everything that's happened with Luka Doncic getting traded out, I think that like for me there was still a sense of optimism too, just the type of player that Kyrie is, and the addition of a big. I thought there was still a lot of potential for Dallas had they added a little more onto that team. I think in the coming years, but you hope Kyrie can come back. ACL injuries, it's not always a guarantee that those guys come back like they were before. So you hope that all is right with him after this next upcoming offseason and he's back in the mix, but. Also, on the note of the injury bug, Joel Embiid, we didn't touch on this yet. I know it's a little dated news. He's also out for the rest of the season. He's dealing with a knee injury. 76ers, a team that have dealt with quite a bit of injuries throughout the entirety of the season. They're not having a great year, 21 and 39. Had a lot of promise too. I think early in the season too, you had the addition of Paul George, the rise of Jared McCain. But just things haven't really been going their way either. And now, of course, losing your big piece, Joel Embiid, pretty much is the nail in the coffin on that season. But I know Joey, you're a big 76ers fan, so I know that probably hurts you a lot.
Yeah, totally. Huge 76ers fan over here. But I want to ask you this question, Edward. When does it become, when does the talk in that clubhouse be like, all right, when do we send this guy off? Because he seems to be injury prone, not really good locker room guy, it seems, with the media and everything going on there in Philly. When do those talks begin to happen? Is it right now, or is it like we'll give him another year? Because I'm pretty sure fans are pretty much done with that, and especially like you said, with the rise of Jared McCain, let's build around Maxey, and maybe we'll keep a little bit of Paul George in the mix.
Yeah, I think it just depends. To be honest with you, I think that the Anthony Davis trade actually kind of reset the market a little bit. Anthony Davis, a little similar to Joel Embiid in the sense that, is a very good big, somewhat injury prone, was playing at a high level, and the Lakers decided to sell him off maybe a little early while the value was still high, in order to get a massive return like they did. Obviously, you don't anticipate the 76ers maybe getting that type of return, but if the 76ers are aggressive, to be honest with you, I wouldn't be entirely surprised if they at least test the market to see what they can get back for Embiid if they feel internally that the injuries are a problem. Now, of course, like there's a lot of stuff that we don't know as fans from the outside. Maybe he isn't as injury prone as we've seen, and he just has gotten unlucky breaks here and there. But it depends. I mean, I probably would say I don't anticipate that though, just because he's an MVP caliber player at his best. And I think, like you mentioned, Tyrese Maxey, also another guy that's in there, a younger talent that, they can build around as well as Jared McCain. So I think they probably keep him, but I wouldn't be surprised if they test the market, kind of like the Lakers did selling high, if you think injuries are a problem. Moving on though, just a little standings, I guess overview, if you will. OKC last night, they got their 50th win on the season. They beat a Rockets team that's actually playing pretty good basketball, good for fifth in the Western Conference. OKC though now getting their 50th win, so they're 50 and 11 now, running away with the Western Conference, 11 games clear of the second place Los Angeles Lakers. SGA though dropped 51 last night. He leads the league points per game, 32.6. I know, Joy, we kind of talked about them earlier, but OKC, solidifying themselves, I think, is a formidable front runner in the Western Conference. But I think the question still remains, do they have the experience come playoff time? You look at the other teams, LA, the Lakers, that is, they slipped into that two spot now. They're on a 6-game win streak. The Nuggets are in the mix in third. Then you got the Grizzlies, Rockets, Warriors, Clippers, Kings, Timberwolves, and Mavs for the top 10. So I think, if you're the Thunder, obviously you like what you see, but there are a lot of teams too with playoff experience behind you. You know, I think even just looking the two teams right behind you, the Lakers and Nuggets.
Yeah. I mean, when you look at the Thunder, I think we talked about before how complete of a team they are with when we said that when Chet was out. Um, and I think it's showing right now. I mean, 26 wins on at home, 23 wins on the road. Just complete dominance, top to bottom on that roster. Um, I don't know. I mean, I could see a very clear upset. I mean, I think that's the case for both the West and the East. When you look at it, it's just I think you rely on more veteran presence when it comes to the playoffs, and obviously the Lakers have that. The Nuggets have experience there, so I'm not sure. I mean, we could even see a Golden State upset. I'm not gonna say I said it right here, right now, but I'm
Yep.
gonna say it right here, right now that Golden State may possibly could upset OKC just because of the veteran presence, and I don't really want to see that. I'd like to see Shea take it all the way. I don't mind OKC getting that ring, but yeah, I think veteran presence does play heavily into deep playoff runs.
Yeah, and I think a team too that maybe is, wildly enough going under the radar as well is just the Denver Nuggets. Nikola Jokic having a heck of a year again, 28.9 points per game average this year. If you're the Nuggets, you lost to the Lakers now about a week and a half ago, so you don't like that. But you also like that you have had the advantage on the Lakers for pretty much the greater part of the last 3 or so years when it comes to the playoffs. So I think the Nuggets are another tough team. But like even a Thunder Nuggets Western Conference Finals, just depending on how the standings shake out, that would be a fun one. Chet, a newer, younger big against Nikola Jokic, a guy with experience, I think will really kind of give us a clearer picture on the Thunder. And as far as the Eastern Conference goes, kind of the same conversation as well. Cavs, a younger team. They're up top 50 and 10 in first place. The Celtics are behind them, 7.5 games back, 43 and 18. Then you got the Knicks, Bucks, and Pacers in the top five. Joey, the Bucks playing good basketball. Damian Lillard, Giannis Antetokounmpo kind of figuring that thing out. 7-3 in the last 10.
Yeah, definitely not the hottest team in basketball right now. I would like to bring up the Celtics played the Cavs last week. I believe you brought that up on our previous episode. I watched that game live. What an absolute just sellout from the Celtics. I know they were playing with a couple injuries. Drew Holiday was out, but the Cavs were down, I believe, 25-8 at the end of the first first period or whatever, and stormed back to win
Yeah.
somehow, some way in Boston. Might I add that as well? So yeah, I mean that was the game. I mean Tatum was up in the first quarter. He was saying, bring them on,
Yeah.
send these guys home. We're tired of hearing about Cleveland. And then Donovan Mitchell said, you know what? We'll face the music. And yeah, they got it done. So I think that game really set a standard to what Cleveland's built over there.
Yeah, I would definitely like to see those two teams in a 7 game series too. I think that would be two teams obviously with a lot of basketball history too. Cleveland going back to the LeBron James days. Obviously they show up in for playoff basketball, and then Boston, their fan base speaks for themselves. So I think that's definitely a potential Eastern Conference Finals. Looking ahead though, games in this upcoming week. I should say big games in this upcoming week that I kind of have circled out here. We got Thunder versus Grizzlies. That is tomorrow at 7:30, or if this gets posted tomorrow, it'll be today at 7:30. Knicks and Lakers. Lakers are making their East Coast swing. That one, or well, I'm sorry, they're playing the Knicks at home and then making their East Coast swing. Knicks and Lakers in LA on Thursday. Then the Lakers head out to Boston on Saturday. Marquee matchup, East versus West there. And then on Monday, after the weekend, Nuggets and Thunder, Monday at 5 o'clock. So, Lakers obviously playing cross conference games, but a couple good Western Conference matchups here with the Thunder and Grizzlies and Thunder and Nuggets. I will say, like, the Thunder, they'll be tested in the next couple of games. Their schedule starts to strengthen, as well as the Lakers. The Lakers have a tough swing. They'll also double back on that East Coast road trip. They'll take on the Celtics. They got the Nets mixed in there, so that's kind of a more of a gimme game. But they also have the Bucks as well as the Nuggets. So, I think I'm going to expect to see a lot more shifting in the standings even within the next week. But like I said last week, definitely a wild finish to the end of the regular season, especially following everything that happened at the trade deadline. So we'll definitely have to continue to update our folks on the Hoops Bus, because I anticipate quite a good last 30 or so games of the regular season.
Yeah, I want to bring it back to the Western Conference real quick with the Mavericks, dealing with all those injuries and everything. They're saying at that 10th spot. Do we possibly see the Phoenix Suns making the playoffs despite how ass, I'm just gonna put it that way, ass they're playing? I mean, no one's going to these games out here in the Valley.
Yeah. And that is funny too, because ticket prices have absolutely plummeted for their games. And just on like a side note, like the giveaways are becoming, more often. So obviously the message is clear. They want to get people in the door. But, I just think from like a morale standpoint, if you're the Suns, probably one of the more disappointing seasons out of any NBA team, just given the expectations. I mean, that team, you still admit they have three superstars: Kevin Durant, Devin Booker, and Bradley Beal. Um, but when you see a little vulnerability in the spot in front, right, the Mavericks at the 10th spot, I think the Suns can kind of use that as motivation to kind of turn the season around, just because they see there's opportunity to make a run up the standings. But I don't know. I've not liked what I've seen out of the Suns this year. A lot of potential, and really just not playing good in their last 10 games, 2-8. But I think, like you alluded to, Joey, when you see vulnerability in front of you, I think that's the time to kind of turn things around and make a run.
Yeah. And then final question here as we hop off the hoops bus. Looking at the playoff standings here. I know there's a stat out there that said like, the best team in basketball doesn't usually win the finals. So looking at the Cleveland and the OKC, who do we think has the best chance to upset them? That's, not top ranked. So we're not talking the Boston against Cleveland. We're talking about like, that would shock the world. Like I said, Golden State's gonna upset OKC. You heard it here first. Put those money lines down on Golden State to beat OKC in the playoffs this year. Um, who do you see though? I mean, I could see Minnesota beating OKC. OKC's 0-2, like I said, against them regular season. We'll see how it comes playoff time. Playoff Ant gets put in that work. Who do you see taking on these top two juggernauts?
Well, I think one team that we haven't really mentioned, and I think is worth mentioning, really in the Western Conference, at least for me, is the Sacramento Kings, a team that's towards towards, I would say, the bottom half of, kind of around that play-in spot right now, trying to avoid the play-in. They're in the eight slot right now, 32 and 20 on the season, but they made some moves at the deadline. Also, Sabonis leads the league in rebounds per game, so 14.1 on the season. You talk about the importance of having a big, at least in the Western Conference, of course, too. When you look at the top teams, I think a big is a prerequisite for making a deep run. And then also, that roster, DeMar DeRozan and Zach LaVine back teamed up. I think, perimeter play between them, if they can get hot, and then Sabonis inside, I think sets up for a run that they can make to upset some of these teams. So I mean, I know that's not really like a crazy take, just given that the Kings were a team that were in the top of the mix last year, but obviously this year haven't really had that same success. And as far as the Eastern Conference goes, um, the team at least that has played well lately. Maybe you don't trust them the most, but a team that has rode the hot hand has been the Detroit Pistons. Holy moly, I can't even say it because it's so
Can't
crazy.
even say the team. They were so bad before. You can't even
Cade
say them.
Cunningham is that guy, I guess.
Yeah.
25.3 points per game. They are 9-1 in their last 10. Jalen Duren has been playing great as well. Malik Beasley also adding a little bit to that forward grouping. And obviously, some of the younger guys on that team have willed themselves to a run, but they might be a sneaky team, I would say, if they can avoid the play-in. Right now, they are out of the play-in. They're sitting in the sixth spot, but 35 and 27 for a team that was garbage probably the past, what, half decade or so, was looking to break the losing record last year. Like an incredible turnaround and a team that has been able to sustain a winning run here. So if they can avoid the plan, I think anything can happen at that point.
All right. Well, you heard it here first, folks. Make sure when playoffs come around,
Yeah.
you come back to this episode and you're like, what did Edward Neiman say would possibly be upsets for my money lines? There you go. Got it right there.
You don't blame me either, right?
No, no, no. We never do that. Just go MIA for a couple weeks.
Right, right.
Yeah. Um, so that does it for the hoops bus. What do we got next? What do we got next?
Yeah, well, I mean, we're rolling to the NFL. I know this is kind of a weird time in football. Obviously, we're still a long way out from the regular season, but the NFL is one of those sports that I think, if you really try, you can generate headlines at any point. But some real news here, the NFL Combine taking place.
Yeah. We had some standout prospects come in, boost their stocks. I'm gonna be honest, I didn't watch any of it.
No,
So, I just got some reports here. Going into this draft, let's just break down the draft as a whole. So right now, running back heavy, like throughout this whole draft. Um, I mean, we got Scalabo, possibly a third round pick, which is insane. So look for running backs. It's going to be a good running back draft class. Quarterbacks also they're pretty deep as well. Let's pull up this board here that I got. You got the likes, obviously Cam Orchard or Sanders top of the talk right now. But then you got guys falling like Will Howard, um, national champion,
no,
dropping to pick 90 possibly. Riley Leonard, Notre Dame quarterback. Dylan Gabriel, Oregon quarterback, fallen in the draft. So they could this draft class could run deep for quarterback. Wide receiver is not too many as a whole. I mean, you got Teratoa McMillan from our rival U of A, that's headlining that right now. Nothing too crazy on the wide receiver end though. Besides that, tight ends I think is where you're gonna find probably the most value for the least amount of guys, with the likes of Tyler Warren, Colston Loveland, and Terrence Ferguson. And then edge rushers, I would say probably another deep run as well. Abdul Carter headlines that group. Even though we just got news that he may need foot surgery,
yeah,
which is huge because I honestly would think Abdul Carter, number one pick,
no,
either him or Travis Hunter. Um, yeah, this possibly kills his stock immensely, which is pretty crazy. I mean, he played a playoff game with one arm. I don't know if you've seen that, Edward. He had like a shoulder injury, and he was still rushing off the
no.
edge. His shoulder was like limp, and he was just like still
Yeah.
rushing with his left arm. It's like he's a certified dog, and yeah, he was my projected number one pick, but we'll see what the news comes out for the foot surgery. Linebackers not too deep as well. So nothing really crazy going on. And then DBs, obviously the headliners, Travis Hunter. I don't know. Have you heard anything if he's going to play corner or receiver, or is that still up in the air?
No, but I believe it was him who did say that playing you know, dual positions in his shoes was actually tougher than what Shohei was doing in
Oh
baseball.
yeah.
That's all I heard. So,
Yeah, I did hear that. And then Chad Ochocinco said, well, the two the two hardest things in life are hitting a baseball and keeping a woman happy long term. So um
you know,
that's Ochocinco's words, not mine.
right, right, right.
Um, but yeah, DBs, Travis Hunter probably headlines that. Will Johnson, cornerback from Michigan, also. And then you got guys like Kobe Bryant falling deep in the draft. For corner, I mean safeties, Malachi Starks headlines it with Xavier Watts from Notre Dame, Malachi Moore, Alabama. So just some guys to keep a headline on. But from the combine, some guys that boosted their stock. We'll start off with a running back, Christian Judkins, Ohio State. I mean, Ohio State, they that whole team could get drafted this year if they really wanted to, with the likes of Jeremiah Smith and their two running backs. But Judkins stood out the most. At 6 feet, 220 pounds. It seems like running backs these days are just going 200 plus pounds,
Yeah.
and they're running as Judkins is. They're running a 4.48 40-yard dash. I mean, dude. Who's getting in front of that man to tackle him? You know what I mean?
Right, and you see the success that they have in college, and you know, really, there's not a whole lot of gripes you can have just because they already have that size that's NFL ready. So, yeah, I mean, the standard is getting moved on the running back, at least from a physical standpoint.
Yeah. So definitely top five running back in the draft. And then his colleague Trayvon Henderson, also a top five running back. Didn't really boost his stats a lot in the combine the way Judkins did. But again, you draft one of those Ohio State running backs, probably gonna be like a Zeke
Yeah,
coming out of college. Another running back, RJ Harvey, UCF, ran a 4.41 40-yard dash. Um, they're comparing him to the likes of the Bucky Irving this year. So take that for what you will. Maybe a guy that, doesn't get many looks in the draft, gets into camp, gets a lot of likes from the coaches, and then ends up being a number one back or in a split backfield the way Irving and what's our guy's name? The guy I was so high on.
who recently?
No, yeah, I'm testing you right now. Who's the running back that went to ASU on the Bucks?
Oh, you're talking about
My guy.
ooh, Rashad. Come on, what's his face now?
Come on now.
Now you got me on the spot.
Come on now.
What is it, Rashad White?
Yeah,
Is
Rashad White. There you go.
yeah.
So Rashad White and Bucky
I do
Irving.
remember that. I didn't know you wanted to still bring that up. You know, but
No, I don't really talk about it anymore these days, you know
right,
what I
right.
mean? It's a sensitive topic.
You see,
Uh
I forgot about him. That's how much it is, you know, blended up for me. But
I'm gonna wear my Rashad White jersey next episode so you don't
okay,
forget.
please do.
All right. Another position player, tight end, Terrence Ferguson, just brought this up. Tight end from Oregon, standing 6'5", 247 pounds. Watched this guy a couple times live. Obviously, with Oregon playing regular season, you just watch those games just to see how good they're doing. Definitely a yak receiver, yards after catch. He ran the best 40-yard dash in the position group at a 4.63. So, like I said, a yak catcher, rack catcher. Um, I'd probably compare him to George Kittle if I had to, but maybe not the blocking aspect, but the yak. Um, we'll get into a QB here, Jackson Dart, probably the most headliner of the combine was Jackson Dart. He's now officially listed the QB3 behind Cam Ward and Shadur Sanders, which is pretty interesting. He was originally pretty far down on the list of quarterbacks, but has continued to build himself. I'd probably compare him to Bo Nix this year. I feel like that's where he's going to fall. He's going to be that kind of guy that falls into the right scheme, but not a high draft pick. And I'm really high on him. I hope the Rams somehow get him. But
Yeah, I was gonna say, I mean, I think you gotta respect Jackson Dart. Not only is he looking at the combine, after I saw a couple of those deep balls that he threw, I had to kind of look up his stats. I mean, guy went plus 4,200 yards, 29 touchdowns, 6 interceptions, and I think you understand. Okay, those are good numbers, but then also the fact that he played in the SEC. Ole Miss they played a tough schedule this past year, and he looked good. So, I think that's something that not only I mean, you have naysayers saying, well, he looked good in the combine and whatnot, but I think when you look at his college career, maybe one of those quarterbacks, just because he was in the SEC, maybe got overlooked. But like you mentioned, he falls in the right scheme. I think he's gonna have a good career ahead of him.
yeah, I think he could either fall in the Bo Nix category or easily the Zach Wilson category. Because like you said, he played good enough in the regular season. I didn't really hear too much about him. It was mostly Cam Ward, another guy I'm high on, Dylan Gabriel, a guy that's really far down in the draft for I don't know what reason.
Right.
Um, but yeah, I mean, he's played enough. He's played good enough regular season, and now he's just building his stock with these mini workouts and now the combine. So, like I said, his ceiling could be Bo Nix. I think his floor is Zach Wilson. So, and then lastly here we got wide receiver Matthew Golden from Texas puts the NFL world on notice with a blazing 4.29 40-yard dash. Um, Pretty insane stat right there. I know his other receiver in at Texas, Isaiah Bond, was saying, "Oh, I'm gonna run a 4.2 flat. It's gonna be easy."
Yep.
And then I think he ran like a 4.4 something, I think I don't have the exact time, but then it's funny his uh his wide receiver duo Matthew Golden puts it
Yep.
on. So
Why not?
again, these Texas wide receivers we saw last year, Xavier Worthy put the world on notice with his record-setting 40-yard dash. And now, I mean, these Texas wide receivers, like, is that all they recruit is just speed, not hands?
Yeah, I mean, I suppose, but as a player, I mean, speed can get you to a decent spot in the NFL. You can get a pretty good position with a lot of speed.
Yeah. I think one thing I forgot to add, Judkins is projected to go to the Texans. I don't really have projections on anybody else. So, yeah, we'll get into more depth though throughout the year and probably talk about it more, especially when the draft comes up. I think we're gonna have a couple guests on for the draft. I know a couple. We're getting a lot of calls. People want to
Really,
join the
yeah.
show. Edward, how do you feel about that? Should we let them on?
I love it. I mean, we're not hard to find, so anyone can hit us up at any time, and we'll have you on the show. So, no, that's
Yeah.
that's the beauty about the new format of the PNN podcast. You don't need to be here physically. We can get you on here. So that's another thing too. Like if anyone's on there roasting our takes or has something else to say, like we welcome everyone on here. To stand on business and whatnot. So yeah,
Yeah, we'd love to hear these NASCAR fans
yes,
dissing us about our NASCAR takes. Like,
I would welcome
where
that.
are you and where have you been?
Right,
That's our real question.
right.
So, anyway, let's not try to fight our audience. But NFL offseason moves. So we'll move past the combine. Some big moves happened recently. Um, if you guys didn't know that Edward is a Bears fan, unfortunately.
Yeah,
So something that happened recently was the Rams. Lucky enough, you just try to take from the teams that do it right, I guess. Rams trade O-line Jonah Jackson to the Bears for a 6th round pick.
yeah.
So how are you feeling about that, Edward?
Well, I like it. There's a lot more work to be done. It's funny too because I got the question not that long ago about what I wanted the Bears to do in the draft. Obviously there's rumblings of a running back like Ashton Genty or whatnot, but I'm all for building the foundation right now. Maybe it's not as sexy to go out and build up your O line and whatnot, but I think that's what the Bears need to do. A good ad from your Rams. We appreciate you letting us have them. But yeah, there's still a lot of work to be done because that O line needs a lot. And I think the number one priority, at least for me, from a fan's perspective, is we got to keep Caleb Williams healthy. He's proved to me that he has, the talent, at least out of his first year, that he has talent to build on, and he can only do that if he's healthy. So keep adding to that O line, and I think you built the foundation. We're in a good spot.
Yeah. Um, Two questions. How do you feel about the Justin Fields situation last year? How he had a pretty good run with the Steelers and it wasn't with the Bears? And then when do you decide, maybe we just sign our Lord and Savior Jesus Christ to save this team?
Well, as far as Justin Fields goes, I mean, obviously, like, he was in a fierce competition with Russell Wilson, so that's whatever. But we're trying to get the next biggest thing. That's the thing. We don't settle for being mediocre. Yes,
Ah,
I've been to a Super Bowl in about my lifetime. No. Have we been the worst team in the league and the most laughable fan base for the last for my lifetime? Yes, but let me assure you that we do things right. And we don't need Jesus Christ because we got Caleb Williams and Ben Johnson to save us. So,
yeah, speaking of Ben Johnson, Jonah Jackson did play for him on when he was with the Lions, so bringing some familiar faces to new places. Sticking with the Rams, though, we did agree to contract restructure with Matthew Stafford. It was weird. The Rams are usually never the talk of the town, and then this like past week, we're just seeing like Aaron Rodgers and Devontae Adams to the Rams. The New York Giants want to get Matthew Stafford. The Steelers want to get Matthew Stafford. It's like, bro, when did we become the face of the earth? I thought it was always the Cowboys. But fortunately enough, we restructured Matthew Stafford's contract, and I believe that's going to set us right. If only we could bring Cooper Kupp back, that would really bring it all together. I think, with that trade for with the Bears, it adds some cap space for us to maybe, restructure Kupp's contract. But at the end of the day, it's a business, and you can't really get your hopes up. Um, let's move on to Buffalo, eh? The
yeah.
Bills signed wide receiver Khalil Shakir to a 4-year contract extension. I think that's good for them. I think he was their most reliable receiver in the slot there in Buffalo. And then you still got the likes of Amari Cooper, I believe he's still there. If not, I think he might be a free agent. I'm not sure. Um, you still got Keon Coleman on his second year, and Dalton Kincaid and Dawson Knox still. So, I mean, it's good. I think if they bring back Amari Cooper, I think that's all they were missing was really an outside piece, a reliable outside piece for that offense. But I believe it's a good signing. Thoughts on that?
Yeah, I mean, I think, the big thing with the Bills this offseason is just being aggressive and trying to, win on the margins. They're obviously, I think, probably for my money at least, the next best team, I think, aside from the Kansas City Chiefs when it comes to the AFC, I think you'll have an argument from some people that are high on the Bengals or whatnot for next year. But I think from what we know from last year, that the Bills, excuse me, are going to be right back there. You need to add small pieces, like you said, but keeping that wide receiver core will be important for Josh Allen. Obviously, offense, wins in the AFC more likely than not. You'll have to get into a shootout when it comes to the playoffs with a team like the Chiefs. So keeping that offense intact and then just making some smaller moves, I think, in this offseason to kind of shore things up will be big for them. But shout out to the Bills though. Lot going right for them. I believe they're getting a new stadium here pretty soon as well. Still an outdoor stadium for whatever reason, but if you look for the next big dynasty, I think the Bills could be there if they can get over the hump and beat the Chiefs eventually.
Yeah, I mean, we're praying for that, aren't we? So,
I
um,
I would love nothing more than
yeah. Let's move to Philly, huh? Um, Eagles released cornerback Darius Slay.
yeah.
Pretty shocking, but not really. I mean, if you look at it both ways, obviously he had that veteran presence, leadership in that locker room. But then you look at the roster. I mean, the rookies just outshined a lot of their DBs with the likes of Cooper DeJean and Quinion Mitchell. Um, so, I mean, it makes sense. I believe they're looking to get rid of James Bradbury as well. I don't even know why he's still in the league, but yeah, we'll see what happens in Philly. I mean, they're set. They know how to draft. They know how to trade. So,
Yeah, and
if I'm a
that's the point you want to get to is like when you don't even have to pay your veteran guys anymore. Like your team is that deep and the culture
yeah.
is so good there that you can get rid of some of those other guys and be completely fine with it.
Yeah. So I think Eagles fans were okay with this. Obviously, some were pretty upset, but when you look at it, it's a win-win. Hopefully, Darius Slay can, go retire somewhere nice. I could see him ending up with the Cardinals out here. And then some other Eagles news, they extend Saquon Barkley to a record-setting 2-year, $41 million extension. I believe it's the highest paid running back ever officially.
Yep.
Um, no surprises there. Deserved it, deservingly. Um, Easily the MVP of that team this season. And I mean, now it just sets that market even higher. So I think all running backs are thankful for Saquon Barkley right now.
Yeah, I mean, I gotta definitely big ups to Saquon Barkley. I think, maybe we didn't even get to see it, at least some of the more casual fans necessarily in the Super Bowl, but a lot of those regular season games, just putting the team on his back, doing the dirty work. And at that, I going into the offseason, you expect just for the Eagles to hand him a blank check. They did. They pay him, set you up in a good spot for next year. And I think also too, you know, Jalen Hurts can't throw a football too. So. Uh, it's not just Saquon Barkley. It's a dual threat offense, and I think if you're an Eagle fan, you're very encouraged at least with that win and that performance, both in the air and on the ground this past season.
Yeah. I wish Jalen Hurts could throw a football in my fantasy championship, but
Yeah. Well,
he wasn't able to.
that's because he knows, he needs to for you.
Yeah.
So,
Whatever. Fuck the Eagles. Let's move to the Jets. They released wide receiver Devontae Adams. Um, we could just skip over this. I mean, we could just say that that ship has sailed.
I mean,
That
it was just
project has failed.
honestly, it was a waste of a lot of time and energy from the whole sports talk world because all of that hype literally resulted in nothing. Like
Yeah,
we are the Jets are right back where they started.
probably they were worse with Aaron Rodgers
Yeah,
more than Zach Wilson.
yes, and it was fun while it lasted, though.
Yeah. Let's move on to Cincinnati as they placed a franchise tag on wide receiver T. Higgins, an important part in that offense. But then they do release guard Alex Kappa, and I think we all know the reason for this is to build cap space for that record-setting deal that they're going to sign Jamar Chase for.
Yeah.
It's a matter of time. If they don't, I'm not sure what they're doing, but I mean it's pretty obvious at this point with this release. Um, but T. Higgins gets a franchise tag again, which is weird. I thought like you couldn't franchise tag a guy 2 years in a row, but I guess you can now. And I don't know. I don't know how I feel about that. I feel like that should be illegal.
Well, you know more about football than I do, but yeah, kind of a weird situation there. Bengals though, kind of, your hands not only forced to with Jamar Chase to be competitive at the top of the AFC, but also get out of that division. I mean, that division's not a given. So you got to play a lot of good teams twice a year. So you kind of have to swing for the fences, and that's obviously what they're doing as you mentioned, clearing that cap space to get that duo back intact.
Yeah. I mean, I know Joe Burrow was saying, we really want to bring back T. He's a focal point in this offense. And so obviously they did it with T again. It's just a matter of time before Chase gets that contract. So, alrighty. And lastly, here for the offseason moves, we got Commanders trade for wide receiver Deebo Samuel. Save the best for last
Yeah.
here for all our Niner fans and everybody. How do you think Niner fans felt with this trade? I feel like there were mixed reviews. I feel like they were ready for it, they were prepared for it, but at the same time, people were like, "It's Deebo,"
Right.
So.
Well, I think obviously, like you said, you were preparing for this. Niner fans coming off a year that was pretty pretty devastating, really, given the success that you have had. I think though, what would hurt for me as a Niners fan is you give him to a team that is already a contender in the NFC,
Yeah.
in the Washington Commanders. So if your hopes of trying to kind of clear a way to make a path back to the Super Bowl, however close you think they are to that. I mean, you know,
Yeah.
whatever.
Uh,
But you kind of have given more ammunition to one of the rising teams in the NFC. And as for the Commanders, I think it's a wonderful move. You have the next greatest quarterback in your eyes, and what better way to develop a second year quarterback than add a top talent on the offense.
did you just say the next greatest quarterback as Jaden
In, in,
Daniels?
in their eyes,
Oh, okay, okay, okay.
So,
I thought it
no,
was Caleb
no,
Williams. I thought it was Caleb
no,
Williams.
no. See, Jaden Daniels is going to try to be Caleb Williams.
Oh, okay, okay, okay. Even though Jaden Daniels made it to like the NFC Championship or whatever.
Well, it's cute, but he didn't win the Super Bowl, so it doesn't really matter all that much. So
Oh,
if you're
all
not
right.
first or last, I mean, look right behind you, brother.
Yeah, no, I feel that. I feel that. Yeah, but like you said, the Deebo Samuel to the Commanders, I mean, that adds a valuable piece next to Terry McLaurin, who had an outstanding year.
Yeah.
Finally gets his quarterback. We see what he can do with a quarterback now. He gets some pressure taken off him with Deebo Samuel. So we'll see what happens. I mean, last picture I saw of Deebo, he seemed obese. Um, but we shall see what happens in Washington.
Hey, man,
Only time will tell.
we also heard that Luka Doncic was 270 pounds. So, you I take all of that with a grain of salt.
Yeah. But yeah, like you said, I mean, the NFC East is just stacking up
Yeah.
and yet the Cowboys still do nothing.
That
So,
nothing. Nothing.
yeah, not surprising.
No.
So, yeah, that's all we got for NFL.
Yeah.
First time bringing it back on the PNN pod.
Yeah.
Um, so you wanna dive into some TGL? I'm not even gonna talk about this shit league anymore, I'm done
Yeah,
with it.
it's kind of funny too. The whole thing was like Joey introduced me to the TGL was really hyped about it, and now come playoff time where the rubber's really starting to hit the road, all of a sudden there's a disinterest in everything that's going on. But I'll tell you why. It's because Jupiter is not in the playoffs, and Tiger Woods
Yeah.
is not in the playoffs, but also I can't really roast you too much because Roy McIlroy's not in there either. So two of the
Yeah.
creators, the number one scenario that I think ESPN and all the TGL, partners and sponsors and everything involved, you wanted to avoid this one scenario, and that's Tiger and Rory not making the playoffs, and that's what we got. Kind of overlook at the seeding here. It isn't quite set in stone, but the number one seed did go to LA. Surprise, surprise. And the number four seed went to New York. So the two and the three seeds still to be decided, but the teams that have locked that up is the Bay and Atlanta. Atlanta playing Jupiter as we speak, and it's still tied at nothing to nothing. So still a lot to figure out at least in terms. Oh, I'm sorry, 3-1 now. I'm getting an update. 3-1 Atlanta.
Oh, word? Oh, you just got that
Oh,
update? Okay.
so
Yeah,
yeah,
no.
so Jupiter is
Appreciate that.
yeah, it was an okay run for you guys, but yeah, TGL shifting into the playoffs. Semifinals start the 17th and 18th. So what's that like? A week from this upcoming weekend, if that
Hmm.
makes any sense. And then the finals begin the following week. But yeah, I mean, your thoughts, Joey. I mean, aside, like all jokes aside from, Jupiter unfolding like a lawn chair, it's been a fun regular season. I'm excited to see the playoff format and everything to do with that because I think the TGL has exceeded my expectations at the very least.
Yeah, I like how you said all jokes aside and then proceeds to just shit on my team. I think it's a sign that anything Mike Trout is a part of, just don't root for because they will not win anything.
Right, right,
Except if it's the Philadelphia Eagles.
right,
Um, but yeah, I mean, like you said, I think it's exceeded expectations and only playoffs will add to it. I mean, it's definitely going to come down to holes tied, which hasn't really been a factor, or holes won, which is the tiebreaker. So that
right.
hasn't really been a factor at all. Um, and that's going to be pretty intense. The use of the hammer, the change from the first 3 weeks to now has been immense in the success of teams. I think Atlanta has used it the best. Um, and New York obviously had to use it. They were at the start of the season last place, moved their way up into the playoffs. Um, only time will tell. I mean, right now, I like I don't know, those top three teams are pretty hard to beat. I'm not gonna lie, Atlanta, Bay, and Los Angeles. I mean, they all have their guys. Sorry, I didn't mean Alexander Shuffle. I was gonna say Wyndham Clark they said he might be the MVP of the league for the Bay outside of Ludwig. Any LA golfers you think should make that case? I know you're the LA guy.
Well, the thing with LA to me is that the team has been pretty deep all year long. Morikawa, his iron game. Now he hasn't necessarily, I think, had a lot of highlight reel plays, but a consistent player. Fleetwood has kind of sneakily had some good days as well. But you mentioned the Bay, LA and the Bay. They played, LA won, but I think a matchup that we might see down the line. But Atlanta, I think Atlanta might be the sneaky team, to be honest with you, when it's all said and done. Because Atlanta, you mentioned the hammer usage, and I think the way that they have kind of played as of late has been encouraging to me. And just, depending on the seeding as well, I think that's also another part of it. Um, in terms of who wins, what matchups we get, I should say, in the finals. But I think the 2-3, it'll be Bay Atlanta one way or another. That will probably be the playoff semifinal to watch, I should say.
Okay. Yeah, Atlanta. I mean, we haven't really talked about them. The full American lineup that
Yep.
they bring out. Justin Thomas, probably the anchor of that team. Very consistent. And then you got Billy Horschel, who's the energy of that team. He picks everybody up and just brings to life and energy.
Yep.
So we'll see. We'll see what happens. Definitely gonna be exciting to watch. Hopefully everyone tunes in. Um, but yeah, shout out Jupiter. Fucking the worst team. Literally the worst team. We have 9 holes won and like fucking 8 matches. Come on. Did we even want to show up or like what are we doing?
Hey, it's okay though. It's okay because hopefully there'll be next year for you guys, and if there's not next year, there'll be the year after that. Eventually, you'll find it.
Yeah. I just don't understand like Tiger, you created this and you suck ass. You know what I mean?
Yeah, well, I'll give Tiger a little bit of a break. I'll give him a little bit of a break. Tiger, obviously, his health, has been an issue. He had a tumultuous year. But Roy McIlroy, like I feel like we need to hold him to a higher standard because this guy, on tour, he's been playing decent golf, but when it comes to the TGL, just hasn't been able to get the job done. So,
Yeah. At first I thought they would be the team to watch. They're called the Frogs,
yeah.
obviously with that frog logo. I think that's why they lost. I'm not sure what the frog has to do with Boston golf. Um, but I mean, I'm not sure really where to begin with this team. I mean, they were up last night, I think 6-1 against New York and end up losing 10-6.
Yeah.
So that shows you kind of all you really need to know about what they've been doing. Although they have Captain America on their team, Keegan Bradley. Um, yeah, unfortunate turn of events for the TGL creators.
Yeah. Well, I will still be watching the semifinals regardless, and I think that's one thing too. Like the TGL is trying to reiterate to people is like just because Tiger and Roy are not in there doesn't mean we're not going to get good matchups. And I really think any team can win it. Obviously, I favor one of the top three teams. I think New York just how they started off, gives me a little pause for concern. But I can honestly see the Bay, LA, or Atlanta all winning it, and I wouldn't be surprised in the least bit. Obviously, I'm rocking with LA, but.
Yeah, yeah. So I think that's it.
Yeah. Another good week in the books, Joey. Spring break
Yep.
next week. But a lot of good stuff happening. Obviously, we're getting closer and closer to the MLB season. I'm sure we'll talk more as that, kind of kicks into gear. Also, want to mention before we get out of here, the Cubs are a wagon. Definitely going to watch out for them in the World Series this year. Put your future bets down. I don't know what they stand at right now, but they're looking good.
Are we serious right now?
Yeah, I'm telling you, it is going
You
to be
dead ass had to bring that in.
It is going to be one heck of a summer. Bron's going to have his fifth ring. Lakers will have their 18th banner. The Cubs will be on track to win another World Series, and all will be well in the world.
I'm surprised LA Golf Club for the TGL hasn't signed Braun.
Well, the problem is they'll be called a super team then, and we're trying to avoid all the super team narratives. So, LeBron could be the greatest golfer in the world if he wanted to be, but he just chose basketball. So,
Okay.
so yeah.
Yeah.
But that'll do it here on the PNN podcast. Subscribe, like this, hit the notification bell. Maybe one day we'll have this on Spotify, hopefully, also. So stay tuned for
Yeah,
that.
we said we apologize to our Spotify listeners. We're not really keeping up with that at all.
Spotify is definitely a little harder to post things on for whatever reason, but I'll figure it out eventually. So, but our YouTubers, make sure to like, subscribe. Why not even throw a comment down there what you want to see, any hot
Yeah.
topics or anything like that. Open to any type of segments or anything in the future. But yeah, Joey, any last words? Good luck the rest of the week here for midterms.
Yeah,
I know you're
you
studying
too.
hard these days, and all the best.
Yeah. Shout out Arizona Rattlers. We're gonna be covering some indoor football. Not really. We're just gonna keep covering with the Arizona Rattlers as I got an internship with them. Um,
Congratulations. Yeah, that's big time. For those of you who don't know, the Rattlers have been a very prominent indoor football team for quite a while.
yeah.
Now I say that in
Top of
all
the
seriousness. They got some dogs on that team at least last year.
yeah, top of the league. Last year they won the whole thing. So um just looking to add to that, I may have to be stepping at QB, maybe a low DB action.
Right, right.
We'll see what happens. I'm not saying it could happen, but it might.
Yeah.
So we'll definitely keep you guys updated with that. Um, Other than that, I think we're good to send it off. Shout out Golden State. They're gonna upset OKC. I'm telling you right now.
Well,
Those are my final words. End it. Kill it. Kill the episode right
all
there.
right, man. With that, we'll see y'all next time. Thanks for watching.